Rock the Ripple. Rock the Ripple. The Rock the Ripple podcast with Narita McInnes.
Let's do this. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Rock the Ripple podcast. I'm your host, Narita McInnes. It is so awesome to be here with you as always. And today is another very exciting day because I am joined by another very special guest. He is an international best-selling author, speaker, spiritual advisor, and educator who assists seekers with spiritual development, self-discovery, and connection to spirit guides, soul family, and their purpose. He is also the founder of the Jaya Sanctuary, located in Indigo Shire in Victoria. There is, of course, so much more to this awesome human. He is the one and only Peter Maxwell Slattery. Peter, welcome to the show.
Narita, blessings, and thank you for having me on. This is great.
Yeah, it is awesome. It's so good to connect. And I know the timing is perfect right now. You've had so much going on. So I know we're going to have so much to talk about. But before we dive into that, for those who don't know you, Peter, who is Peter Maxwell Slattery?
I guess it depends on who you ask. I'll say that's probably one thing is that there's sort of many facets to myself, like everyone. But for some, I'm known for the paranormal stuff. For some, I'm known for healing and spiritual information. For some, I'm known for the ET contact stuff. For some, I'm known for music or documentaries. And so this has been a life journey, myself having multidimensional experiences, yet there is a huge physical component with one of the largest archives of physical evidence in modern times, which I've been able to capture just through my own experiences. But yeah, it's a well-rounded story, as you're well aware. It's not just so black and white or an easy explanation. And I think we can delve into a lot of that today because there is quite a bit to everything in the story. But yeah, it's a little bit of everything that I've mentioned. Just depends on, how you find out about me, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I remember coming across you quite a few years ago now, and there was one interview in particular, and you did something in that video that I've taken with me actually for this whole time when explaining source. So you put your hand like a fist, and then you said, we're all these individual things. So anyone who's listening and not watching, just imagine you're holding a fist and then pointing your fingers out. But we're all connected. And I loved that. But also, you were also talking about all the UFO experiences and paranormal experiences that you had experienced as a youngster. And of course, your time with and links with James Gilliland over in ECETI Ranch over there. For me as well, it's hard to go, okay, where do we start, Pete? Because there's so much to you. So maybe just with those couple of things, grab something, let's run with it.
Yeah, well, I've been fortunate that this has taken me around the world to meet people that are influential in politics, in religion, within what we could say is the spiritual or UFO community, to areas that I was trying to understand, and at times still some perspectives of the experience. I will say that the extraterrestrial aspect of whether people want to call it UAPs, non-human intelligences as they are now, is very much a small perspective of what's going on. I say extraterrestrials would be 5% of what's actually behind. Some of this is time traveling. Some of this is beings from completely different realms. Some of this is so convoluted that we have to get out of linear thinking, which I say we've got to be childlike with this. For myself personally, I say if you're childlike with this and you can throw every structure that you think you know out the window, you'll start to get some idea. And I wouldn't even know 1% out of a trillion% of what's going on. I just know what I know, and it's why a lot of people are trying to talk to me. It is something where as well you find out over time the links to the spiritual aspect with all this, because that is really the key part of this, along with consciousness, that we are really one consciousness interfacing with itself. But because of that, we're in an illusion of, identity, separation, which is actually part of the progress for soul evolution. Mm-hmm. That if everything was just perfect 24/7, there is no soul evolution. Though I believe on the high spectrum of ourselves, which actually go beyond the Merkaba or the rainbow body, which are ascension aspects. I'm really talking about a shapeless, formless, unbounded aspect of ourselves that is really plugged into source. That's where, you know, all this leads back to. We lose that, go and experience and go back up. And the other analogy I use now is, imagine that your highest expression, if we want to give it a form, is a basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Now that basketball, the little tiny hole that you put the pin in or the needle to fill up that ball, that's the pinpoint of awareness that's experiencing through the human vessel, experiencing this reality.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can imagine all those little other dots on the basketball, they're all the other aspects from that same Godhead going out, because it's all happening at the same time. So my experiences, I go into it in the new book. It's not out yet.
Ooh.
But I talk about stuff going back to about 4 years old that I've never spoken about, that I connect the dots later. It's called Ascending UFOs, ETs, Angels, and God. And there was experiences with beings that we could call greys, but they're white. And years down the track, they're actually non-corporeal, non-physical white light beings that appeared that way, that are part of, this is going to sound off the wall, they're part of what I can describe as a house of Gabriel. Part of Gabriel, Archangel Gabriel's, we could say, frequencies, worker beings that are guardians, is the way it's been explained to me.
Mm.
But I didn't understand this for years, because I'm waking up to this physically. This is not, you know, in my head. This is physically an experience that kept being replicated.
Mm.
And I didn't even think it was ETs or angels or demon. I didn't know what was going on, but it eventually led to experiences with a being that's called Shiji from the Pleiades. And then it led on to, well, actually I had interactions with her going back to 7, but it was through telepathy that I didn't understand that. And then blue orbs that were later revealed to me as the Elohim. Now, I'll stop in a moment, but just while I've spoken of Elohim, in the Bible, it's known as God, but it's actually plural for gods. And there is a lot of information that I've even had theologians and many people come to me because there's stuff that I knew that I shouldn't know, or they wanted to understand more of this.
Mm.
Now, these Elohim can appear as anything they want, usually as an orb, and then they can turn into a light being or a column of energy. Now, they come in the variations of the rainbow, replicating each density, which is their domain. There is rainbow ones that are a conglomerate of those colors and energies. And then there are ones and aspects of the Lords of Light that are overseers and regulators of certain areas. And then there's the Elohim, which is our highest self. This is where it gets into me understand the highest self, that each person's highest self. And then there are Elohim that are purely created beings that, from the light blueprint, the non-physical aspect of this reality, create the physical reality from the blueprint. So even us, we've got a non-physical aspect. We could call out the Elohim body. And there are also negative Elohim that are the fallen ones that did fall, and their lower frequency is the reason why they've created AI, that they're doing demonic, archonic, and working with lower entities as their foot soldiers to keep lower frequencies going so they can exist in a physical form as gods.
Mm.
So anything that you can think of has an Elohim aspect, which is quite mind-blowing. But like I say, don't believe me, don't trust me. I just want people to experience and follow their heart in any of this information, because once you think you know something, something comes into the picture that takes you either totally off where you thought you were, or it takes you to a new level.
Mm.
And usually that's because we're just not at a certain level of consciousness to actually get it, if we've got an opportunity to understand whatever it is, you know. So it is multifaceted.
Yeah, that is so interesting. It was so interesting too when you were talking then. The video just sort of lagged a bit and then it went fast again. So, I mean, you can still hear what you're saying, but it was so interesting right when you're talking about the Elohim and our different parts and how it all exists. So, but yeah, and you've written books about this as well too, haven't you?
Yeah, so that will be the 4th book of my there's 13 books all up. That's the 4th book of my experiences.
Just a lazy 13, Pete. Just a
13, yeah.
far out.
And then the documentaries and other things the latest documentary is Ascension, the UFO and Paranormal Connection. I'll briefly go into it, but it's really just ways that I stop repeating myself to get information out, because it's just so much that I'm sort of beyond a certain point by the time people catch up with me or speak to me again. And it's not that I'm better than anyone or anything, but the way my brain operates multidimensionally, as people can see Multidimensional, the movie, and just see some of the stuff I've gone through, it's just in one ear and out the window, and I'm on to the next thing, because there's just so much going on. But like even recently I had 14 people or 13 people visit, 14 here, including myself, and they all saw the blue orbs themselves that I got on. I thought I got on camera, and it wasn't. But in February last month alone, I've got 4 videos of the blue orbs here over the property.
Wow. Was that during the day or night?
They're during the night. I've actually got some daytime footage that you can, if you go to Jaya Sanctuary, Jaya Sanctuary.com, you can see daytime, nighttime. There's stuff that's in the house. There's stuff all over the place that I've been filming for 3 years that I've been here by the end of this month. So yeah, there was people that saw it themselves, actually some locals to the area, and they got to see it themselves, which is always fantastic. But it is a frequency thing. Anyone can experience this. I'm not special in any way. I think anyone can experience this, but there is certain ways it can be initiated. But if they appear, it's like calling up a friend. They can either catch up or they can't. There's many factors, including surveillance, what is going on energetically can prevent them coming through. But it's pretty much an everyday thing in terms of even telepathic communication at the very least. But I think something I'd like to cover is people looking up to these beings and their spirit guides as if that's the go-to. Because I do teach people, and I have a book specifically on practices to connect with your spirit team. You'll end up finding out, yes, there's angels, there's extraterrestrials, there's saints, sages, and masters, earth, elemental beings, fairy. There's all these different things, including Bigfoot, and the list goes on and on. A lot of these things we've experienced ourselves from that other, aspect of the basketball, the oversoul.
Yeah.
But I think some of us get into a situation of being reliant. My spirit guide has told me this. I don't care what your spirit guide has told you. What do you feel in here? Because if they're truly your spirit team, they're jumping in and out. And what they're doing, if it's really your team, is they're helping you to elevate yourself so you don't need them. Now, it doesn't mean if things are life-threatening or certain situations, they won't step in, but we are powerful beings that have come here to experience a time like no other. And at the end of the day, it's up to us to get on with it. We can't be waiting for this or that or the other thing. And I think people need to understand that sometimes we go in cycles in our life. That there's, we hear about I'm not sure the person that specifically came up with this, it was quite some time ago, but there's cycles and seasons within our civilization. And then there is within our own personal lives, like winter, spring, and summer. And each season's got its own thing. And sometimes we need to be okay that things just aren't okay. But it's making lemonade from lemons in those processes. Now, I've done thousands of readings, and that's not to blow my own horn. I've done nearly 5,000 readings in 5 years. And working with so many people, I see what I describe as like a football team that surrounds them. And sometimes, let's say they're connected to a spirit guide, once they get to a certain evolutionary process, that being is always accessible, but something new will come in. And then they'll sort of push to the side. And as you're elevating, what's in a level with that consciousness to assist you to empower yourself, that will step in. And so there's a process of another identity process of people saying I'm a Pleiadian ninth dimensional star seed. I'll just throw that out there. Now, I don't say anything, but and this isn't having a dig at anyone. Everyone's at totally different levels, but I want people to not get in a box. Is what I'm saying here.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're going to evolve, your evolutionary process is just going to go leaps and bounds. But even with myself, I went through this. I had experiences with Shiji. The Elohim, originally I didn't know what was going on with them, because there would be lightning in the house and they would physically appear broad daylight. And I'm like, it's like there's a storm, you know, like the electrical sort of sensation and the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And then it's like space and time is absolutely still. And I didn't understand what was going on. But when Shiji came through and announced who she was, where she's from, things like that, which did roll out over a period of 6 months with physical interactions, that was mind-blowing enough. But then what happened was other beings started to appear over time. And so I had to get to the aspect of going, all right, I was starting to work out there was connections to other beings. But speaking to James Gilliland, if anyone was going to understand, it was him, because he's like, that's just normal. When you're multidimensional mind, you start realizing some of these beings are other aspects and new beings come into the picture. But I guess why I'm saying this is to not get caught in the box or be looking up to and seeing anything better than yourself. It's just we're all on the same level playing field, whether even if it's angelic or extraterrestrial.
Yeah, because it's like you're kind of giving your power away then too. And we're here to remind ourselves how powerful we are and to stand in our power. And yes, you're allowed to have people on your team, but they're your team members. They're not your like up here kind of thing. And like you were saying before too, it's all frequency as well. So, when you are stepping into different frequencies, you attract and align with different different parts of your team. The orbs, you'll be able to see those as well because you're on that frequency. And if you're not vibrating at that, that's just how it is. But it's not right or wrong. It's just a frequency, right?
Yeah. And look, that's why now with the sanctuary here, and what I've been mainly focused on, see, people don't realize from all this, like before I was known for this, I was helping out with paranormal investigations, clearing places. I've been a lifelong experiencer, of course, but about 15 years ago, I got stuck into self-mastery. Now, in the last probably 14 years, going back to around 2010, and then the last 4 years, I've pretty much locked myself up in those periods for 7.5 years all up. And all I've done is remote viewed and meditated, like 8 to 12 hours a day.
Wow.
That's it. And I've become trained in different disciplines of yoga and the teacher in that, and different types of meditation, many different fields. Again, it's not to gloat, but what got me with all these was that I knew this all comes down to self-mastery. And for self-mastery to step into that, first we need to heal and acknowledge what needs to be worked on. And in that process, if truly dedicated to being the best version of yourself and open-minded in a positive way, not just open to any energies or entities, contact's just a natural byproduct of that. Going back to 2010, what I really wanted to do back then was bring the spiritual community, the science community, the paranormal community, and the UFO community all together. Because the division is what stops the evolution. And I can tell you now, since what's happened the last few years, I've seen a huge change with people coming to me that were never into this, and also people from different disciplines, like big names in yoga coming to me. And it's all about going within. But in some of these places, when you have these experiences, you're not even allowed to talk about it. And like I say, what happens is as you go within and you're going back up the source, unless you're having like a full-blown awakening, these saint sages masters, and some of them are extraterrestrial masters from other worlds, they'll start to come in and out. But they didn't want to talk about it. And a lot of cultures don't. And a lot of cultures, they already know all this anyway. But that's why, to me, now focusing on self-mastery, you'll get everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you prepared for everything? That's the other thing as well, because it's a lot.
No, but you're speaking my language of the self-mastery, because I really do feel and resonate with everything you say around that, because everything begins within. And when we know ourselves and we trust ourselves and we learn to love the parts of ourselves that we don't really love, all of that sort of stuff allows us to expand and grow, doesn't it? And then that, like you said, that's when the experiences come in and things like that. And again, frequency, then you connect with the right people at the right time, the right experiences. And it's just, I guess it's easier to land with yourself when you're doing this sort of work, isn't it?
It is. And I think balance and going with the flow is key, but also meeting the universe halfway.
Yeah.
It's like that enthusiasm, that glare in the eye I see in people when they're first waking up. I love that passion.
Yeah.
I've somehow been able to keep that passion for a decade and a half. I don't know how, but there is ups and downs. But when I see that in people, it's just something that I always say of trying to keep that balance, because there are things that you are not going to work out for a long time, if at all.
Yeah.
But being okay with that and not rechasing that experience like some people do with the Kundalini awakening or a first third eye vision. The block they're doing this, I want that experience again, but they're blocking themselves from even a bigger experience or soul knowledge on a different level. So it is, again, I guess coming back to being childlike with all this.
Yeah, I love that you said that, childlike, because it is like when you're playful, you're learning. When you're playful and joyful, you're experiencing things, you're using your imagination, you're connecting to source, and you're not like, and like you said as well, you're going with the flow and you're just having fun. And so many of us, as we grow up, like things get serious, and yes, there is time for seriousness, but there is also time for just play. Like, we're here now, like we're on this freaking amazing planet. What are we going to do? Like, let's just do some fart jokes and also just have some fun, like.
That's why I love James. James will be the first to do that as well.
Yeah,
And
pull my finger, he'd say.
yeah, but it's so true. This is, like I say to people, so serious. But and you can become very obsessed with this.
Yeah.
And that's because I guess, we see the importance of what's going on in the world for our children, for the civilization as a whole, that we know we're better than this. And I just got asked a couple of days ago, for probably the billionth time, that's exaggerating, but what can I do? And I say, just change within. Don't worry about anyone else, but as long as you're being the best version of you, that's going to project outside, and that's you doing your part. But I think even with some of the very complexity of this and what I can share, I say to people, not everyone needs to know it. Like, as long as you give the shirt off your back to help another human, you don't even need to know any of this, because the point of all this is just to be a good person.
Yeah.
People are doing that naturally, and UFOs and spiritual stuff is too much. That's fine, but that's why it's good to be grounded, have a few laughs, talk crap. You've got to be able to do that, and it actually can help the energies come in, and you can work with them as well, which we see at James's. I've been doing it here. I say to people, like, we can get all serious about this. Yeah, we'll do a clearing, we'll do meditation, but as soon as we sit down and we start talking crap, that's where the activity starts.
Yeah.
And people go like, what? Even with James, I'll just sit there, we'll sit back on these chairs, people around us, and we just start telling jokes, and the ships just start appearing. People are like, what? And it's like this frequency.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a frequency of joy, the frequency of love. Like, that's where the magic happens, isn't it? It's where the magic happens.
It is. And look, it is a big responsibility. I think and it's not like I'm a celebrity or anything in this community. I don't consider that. But even with yourself, there's a responsibility with what you're doing right now, sharing information and how you present it and that type of thing. But I think we hear about, cults starting, the guru complex. People probably think I'm sitting here with 20 women and, what I mean, all these different things. And especially when you're opening up to, people call it CFI or initiating contact, I think it's just past too much of people not being aware of what you're delving into, just like ghost hunting, right? A lot of these shows, and I know some people on them, what people are totally unaware of, but they do cover on the odd occasion, is they do clearings or types of prayers to stop attachments or negative influences coming in. But some of these kids or newcomers, even adults, get into this, they've got no idea, and then their life can take a bit of a turn. But I think it's just whatever we specialize in, and there is no experts, but what we specialize in from our own experience, I think there is responsibility with that, and that's something we've got to keep at the forefront as well.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. The more there's a responsibility there, but also, like you said, we're not all experts. I did a video on this last week. We're contributors, and we contribute to the whole, and we share what we've got to share, and then everyone's got their piece of the puzzle, don't they?
100%. Yeah. Yeah, there is no experts. I think there's people that are well read or well researched, but I'm learning about this more and more by the day. Like I'm somebody that's been off world. I released this in the new book. I've talked about it to my close ones. I've been off world. I've been teleported to other places, and with what we could say is consciousness technologies, and even by we could say being is consciousness in and of itself that just surpass anything people can even fathom. And people are telling me that they've got the picture, this and that, and they're coming to me, and it's like, why are you coming to me if you know everything? And this is where it's a bit of an ego check for them as well as myself. I'll tell you a story where my ego got checked was, I think it was 2012 when I was on Sunrise. And at that time, I'd done a little bit of media. And coming out of that, the amount of ridicule I got locally and then nationally and then internationally was huge. And I had an epiphany moment, this ego check of, by all rights and definition, they should think you're insane. Because unless they're open-minded or experienced it, by their own right, I am insane.
Yeah. So
it's all about perspective. And now here it is years later that I've done other television, initiated contact on television. Recently, I was in Malibu at a private event doing some stuff. And there's a lot going on behind the scenes that I can't talk about, even institutes and governments coming to me. But the reason I say this is because if I ever have to go checkmate, I can produce the evidence. But why I say this is that no matter what I do, if somebody's intentions aren't pure, what could unfold won't unfold.
If they're not pure, yeah.
Or certain events, or if they want to experience something, I don't want what I can show people to do themselves to be militarized.
Absolutely.
Because what can happen is if you're doing it for a lower frequency purpose, you're actually going to now open a gate for lower frequency entities.
That's right.
That can do stuff that seem like magic, but what's beyond them make that seem like child's play. And I think any of us have got access to do any of these things, but it's keeping your ego in check from this. And that's why it's a lot of, for me now, about education, because that's why I wanted to learn all these modalities and techniques, because I thought, all right, I know what works for me, but if I can learn so many different things and bring different aspects and techniques to people that might help them that are useless for me, I'm still helping them, because everyone operates different. As an example, and this isn't a sexist thing, and I don't think it's across the board. Women, we hear about women's intuition, so they feel they've got that intuition, that knowingness. Where a man, predominantly with psychic studies, they've got visions. A lot of them won't get the knowingness or the impressions. Now, I've met women and men like myself that can operate on all the clear senses and operate transdimensionally like that. So, like, it's not 100%, but commonly, women operate great with their intuition. So what's that? That's your main tool in your spiritual toolbox. So that's what you work with. But you be open to the other senses turning on, just like a man, they're better visual. So you work with your visual stuff, but the more that you observe impressions and feelings and thoughts, you'll start to get the information relating to that third eye information. And so it's really about finding the way that we operate, and then how can you contribute to the world with that, because all this is useless that we're talking about. It's like, I can do this, I can do that, blah, blah, blah. Like in my spare time, and some are aware of this, I've been practicing telekinesis and levitation. Now, I've been able to do each twice. I can't repeat it. I know people, and I know people that can repeat these things.
Yeah.
And I guess a great example of this is that when I completely let go with the telekinesis, I can move objects, completely let go. Well, what happens is when you keep opening your eyes every few minutes and checking, it's doing this.
Yeah. It's a resistance, isn't it? Yeah.
And so we've got that with everything. And I think it's just finding, what works for us. But again, the reason I'm delving into those things is because I know what humans are capable of.
Yeah.
And if we master these things, we can contribute to the world in our own way in different ways. It doesn't have to be that you're doing levitation or telekinesis, but in whatever area, genre, or thing you're doing, how can you grab that? And when you're living in your passion and in effect, you're living in your purpose, that's I call it cosmic abundance. Everything you need. It's not just a financial thing. That's the last of it. It's relationships, networking, traveling, experiences, health, happiness, all those things. That's cosmic abundance, including finances. But unfortunately, a lot of us are living in lack. A lot of this is due to negative influences and external forces that are contributing to keeping that genre or that situation going on. But it's just up to us to live our best lives.
No, it is. And that's why I love the self-mastery work, and because really that is the work, that is the stuff that grounds us and lays the solid foundation for us to grow. Isn't it? It's like, I mean, if we're sort of here, there, and everywhere, just trying to do everything, and we're not really secure in ourselves and humble in our knowing of the power of who we are, then it's harder for us to really be all that we came here to be. But I guess everyone's journey is different too, isn't it? And all, some of us have to have all that scatteredness and craziness, and I'm sure most people have anyway. I know I have. And just to land where you're supposed to be as well, and I guess divine timing too. Hey,
well, that's the thing, is that's what makes the universe so beautiful, is that we're all unique. I say it's like two snowflakes, they're not the same.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'll use an example of this. I spoke to somebody about this recently. I said, that's exactly the way I see it, which is, we're talking about astrology. Now, of course, there are influences. We can see anybody that's into this and actually goes, is this hocus pocus, or is there something to it? You actually see there's something to it.
Yeah.
Now, there's people that will look at their star sign and astrology and go, I'm not going to do this today. They live their life by it. Now, what I say is you be aware of these things. But to me, looking at the mainframe of astrology for each person is going, no, this is the stuff that you've got to transcend in the human experience.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is about an ascension process where ascension gets blown out of the water. There is, raising our frequency. There's going to a new earth. There's, igniting the flame and being in the Merkaba and being in the rainbow body. There's all these different things, and they're all real. The new earth and this and that and the other. But it really comes down to, it's like, we could even say again with relationships. So many people break up in this area of spirituality when they're in relationships. But the other thing is too, I say, no, this is self-mastery to another level. Mm. Now, I'll be the first to say, I'm not a master in this aspect, but you've got yourself to look after. You've got to balance your energies. You've got to check yourself. You've got to see things that you can work on and be a better person. You've got to master your thoughts. You've got to be conscious that you're conscious. You've got to be aware of your thoughts, all these different things, mindfulness and what have you. But then when you are in a relationship, now it's doubled up. Yeah. And you're not responsible for the other person. They're not responsible for you. And is it really unconditional love? Are you going to put conditions on things and this, that, and that? Like, this is where you're looking after yourself. Now you're going to take this to the next level. So, and look, I've seen amazing couples that have lasted the test of time in self-mastery in a relationship. So it is possible, but it depends on where you're at, what you want to do, and what's applicable to yourself and your situation. Because we're all unique. So it's seeing the circumstances, how can I be a better person and be the best version of me and be in my passion and purpose and contribute and be happy. And that's the things you got to look at. Like I say, whether it's your spirit guides or extraterrestrials or angels, what have you, I don't give a crap what they're telling you. How's the information helping you be a better person, be of service, and bring love into your life? If it meets that criteria, I'll take it on board. If it doesn't, you better check yourself. Yeah. Because, there are guilt trips and this and that go on. And the thing is, just like a true friend or family member, they will pull you up on your crap. Guides will do that. But are you open to hear another perspective? That's self-mastery again. Yeah.
Yeah, are you open to hearing another perspective? Because sometimes you want to be so right and you want it to be this way, but you've got to be able to look in the mirror, and you've got to be able to know that you have to shift and change sometimes, and just sit with it as well. Like, yeah, if you're just being told all the time, you're great, you're fabulous, and you're not doing anything, you're not taking any action either. Like, really? I mean, because I think that's a big part of it too, isn't it? Like, you can you can know all this stuff and have all these downloads and these experiences, but if you're not taking any action, you're sort of only doing half the job of what, we're here to have a physical experience. So we do need to do that too, don't we?
Well, you're here to be human.
Yeah.
If you've done the other realms, like if you're here, why do you want to be in the other realms? It's like it beats the absolute, the whole purpose of what we're doing here. So, but we are special beings, and that doesn't mean that any other life is not special and unique in its own way, not just in this plane of existence throughout the cosmos, but any plane of existence. But it has been revealed to me that we have transdimensional capabilities that even from a physical being up to an angelic intelligence, we have the capability of transforming and popping in and out of all those existence from a physical form once we master it, unlike anything else can do. So from my experiences like with this, which has been part of the information, that's been something that I look at things like the rainbow body in Tibet, and I've seen the beings actually transfer from being physical into a Merkaba, and then they break down to a rainbow energy and then dissolve. It's all connected. And that's actually been a big focus when I was in Malibu. I did a presentation connecting the physical aspect of what evidence I could produce with this to that. Because I was like, you see the Merkaba not all around the world, but in a lot of different cultures. You see even the Tibetans have that in some of their mandalas, and then you see the Tibetans talking about a rainbow body as well as in the Bible, the chariots in the Bible, but chariots actually Merkaba, and the connection to this. And somebody reminded me of this recently because I was getting into a book, and the day he told me, and I totally forgot about it. I went into the book and started writing, and I was like, that's right. It's said by Namkhai Norbu, who's no longer with us, a Tibetan master, that the rainbow body's taught in 13 star systems. So some of these beings are teleporting without a ship. They don't need a ship. There are physical ships, believe me, I know that for a fact. What gets interesting to myself when I had the epiphany years ago was that these beings are trying to ascend themselves, even though they're in whatever realm or density they're in. They're actually not there yet. It's like people go, I'm a touring guide that's at 9th dimension. And it's like, do you realize that dude's trying to get to the next level as well?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, this is how convoluted it gets. So it's, it is a process of knowledge is power, but it needs to be implemented with wisdom and productivity in terms of doing practical things with it. You can know all this stuff, but it doesn't mean jack unless you're doing something with it.
I love that you said wisdom too, because that's the thing. I feel like there's some magic right there as well. Wisdom, the wisdom and the things that we learned, the lessons that we learned from falling on our face and just bloody having to get up millions and millions of times over. You can relate.
Definitely.
Definitely.
I don't think any of us are immune.
No.
I don't think any of us are immune, but that is the soul evolving aspects. And even though I say all lives happen at the same time, to linearize this, let's say people's past lives. Past lives don't mean jack unless they're brought up.
Yeah.
Because there's too much data. It's like I've actually got what I could say access to the book of my soul that I've basically got to keep at arm's length from me. It was through an experience where I actually had a liquid energy go through my shoulder, flip me back off the couch into a heater with the chair, the lazy boy chair, and I heard more of you. And over a few days, I started having just memories like I have human memories, but of many different lives. And it was explained to me what happened. But it got to the point of going, all this is useless unless it's applicable to now. And what I mean by that is, are you repeating something that you should have learned? Not just even in another life, you're doing it now, whether it's a repeat in types of relationships you're getting in, or the type of jobs that you're doing, or self-worth, or working on abundance or happiness, whatever it is. Like, are you repeating processes, and are things that repeating in your life and you're wondering why? It's like, well, it's time to actually turn the vision back within and go, well, it's not out here. What's my responsibility in this? And that's the same thing with past lives. It can be very helpful in identifying, or we could say future lives as well, identifying repeat patterns or things as a heads up to be aware of. But besides that, it can be useless because we're just here to experience.
Yeah, I love that you say that too, because it's true. Like you could spend so much time just diving down the rabbit hole of your past lives, future lives, or parallel lives. They're all happening at the same time, aren't they? But you know, unless, like you said, unless it helps you with something. Like I mean, I've had an experience, quantum healing hypnosis, and I know that there was something there that I needed to see that made sense of something here. And in an instant, I was like, oh, I get that now. And then that was done, you know what I mean? But you don't need to keep going back and looking at these things. Like we're here to experience right now, aren't we?
We are, and that's the thing. It would depend on the person as well, because they might just want to. That's like a big, huge step forward that they just go on about it, and then other people are like, done, on to the next thing. What's next?
Yeah.
No, it just depends on the personality, I think, and
Yeah.
where they're at. But it is, you know, I 100% agree with what you said. It is something that we don't need to just keep, you know, going on about it. It's just identifying, connecting the dots. You have your aha moment, and then self-mastery kicks in going, well, are you going to do something about it?
Yeah.
You know, you're just going to identify and connect the dots, or you're actually going to empower yourself with the fruit that you got from connecting the dots and do something with the knowledge you now have. And that's where the wisdom comes in. That's where the, you know, doing something practical with it comes in as well.
Yeah. And like you said before too, like don't keep yourself in the box of that thing either. Like don't identify with that one thing. Like that's just part of it, isn't it? Like we all just have these different experiences. They're part of the story, but not the story.
Definitely. And I think to add to this, there are times where there are things happening and circumstances that are completely out of our control, even when we're in some of these things.
Yeah. Yes.
That can have to do with health. It can have to do with business and relationships. There's probably too many examples I could give, and I'm sure people would have their own ways that they could apply this to their own personal perspectives. And it's times in that of seeing how you can deal with that and evolve from letting go, but still putting out for whatever it is you're putting out for, and meet the universe halfway in that when the opportunity presents itself. There's times that we can just be on the river and go with the flow.
Yeah.
But then there's times to take control of the ship. And it's being able to identify what's best to be done during where you are on that river of life, we could say.
Yeah, I really love that you said that. There's times to go with the flow and there's times to take the helm and just take control of the ship. That's brilliant, because that's true. And it comes back to the seasons as well, doesn't it? Like there's times for like, you know, being cocooned in winter, keeping yourself nice. And then there's times to be out there and shining so bright and all that sort of stuff.
It is. And I said something to my mother recently. I can't remember what it was applied to. But the other thing that I came up with recently was that nature provides, but the hunter doesn't eat unless they go and hunt. So there needs to be a balance in our circumstances of, again, acknowledging, you know, there is things out there that are, you know, God provides, source provides, but it doesn't mean if you just sit on your butt and meditate and visualize that this is going to happen for you, that it's going to happen. Now, in some circumstances, I know some pretty crazy things that can occur, but
Yeah.
you've got to meet the universe halfway. You know, people don't realize if people can manifest things out of thin air, they don't understand the inner work that they've done to accomplish that. So people just automatically think, I want to sit here, do affirmations and do visualization practices, and I'm going to check my phone, check my bank account, and there's $1 billion in there. Not saying it's impossible.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to say it, but, you know, there is a process of meeting the universe halfway.
Yeah. You absolutely. It's that, and I've said this in other chinwags before. It's that, like the law of attraction. Attraction has the word action in it. Like you do have to do the action. You can't, like you said, just sit there and, like you and I both know that is a possibility, of course, but you know, in general terms, like you got to go out there, you got to do the work, and that's doing the work within as well. But and also just getting out there and taking control of the ship when you need to take control of it.
We've all got ways that we can implement that in our life, so it's just identifying it. I think the other thing is too, just like with self-mastery, you've got to identify actually what do you want? Whether it's your living circumstances, whether it's a relationship, whether you are with a partner or not, It could be family circumstances, people that you surround yourself with. You can apply this to anything, but it gets down to, these days, a lot of people don't know what they want. So if you don't know what you want, that's what you're going to manifest, is just a canvas with paint thrown at it. You don't know what you're going to do, so I'm just going to paint. I'm just going to do this, do that. Now, sometimes when you're doing that, there can be a higher aspect that's orchestrating things that by the end of it, you're like, damn, that's like a masterpiece.
Yeah.
This is where it gets, there's a catch-22 with everything that
I
I'm
know
saying.
there's so many layers to it, isn't it? Because it's not just black and white, is it? Yeah.
No, 100%. But if you know where you're going and you can feel that, and you have dedication, you have discipline, and you're doing something each day, even if it's for 15 minutes, and what you're doing is getting a snowball effect.
Yeah.
Well, now you're going to go towards that thing. And look, that might even open the door to get you somewhere else that you didn't realize you needed to go, which wasn't that. It's this over here, but you wouldn't have it any other way. But I think identifying, sitting down and really contemplating, like, what do I want in all areas of my life? How can I identify this? What can I do to bring these things into fruition? And some of them are, of course, long-term goals, but I think as a civilization, individually and collectively, I think it's something that should be done on a regular basis. Like, what do we want? Unfortunately, when we look at it on a civilization level, it's a completely different ballpark. But if enough of us were operating in this way, it would be something that's done naturally. We could see where things are going. But again, there is, nefarious forces and what have you at work out there. But, this is where everything's one consciousness. So even that has a purpose of what seems negative. If you can raise your frequency above it, that's actually served its purpose in you using it as drive to raise your frequency, not vibe with it and bring yourself down to its level.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And, and the thing is too, like, there might be people saying, well, I actually don't know what I want. Well, then to me, that's an exciting place to be. It's so weird because I was just writing about this yesterday, this very thing. Of course, synchronicity. But if you don't know what you want, instead of focusing on the frequency of, I don't know what I want, I don't know what I want, ask yourself, ask spirit, ask source, whatever you would call it, and say, well, I want to know what I want. And just allow for whatever to drop in and know that you're on that frequency now. I want to know what I want, and things will be presented to you. Maybe you'll be shown what you don't want as well. And that will put you, like you said, on a trajectory somewhere else. And then, things will unfold if you allow it, of course.
Definitely. And I think that's a brilliant point to make. At least then you know what you don't want.
Yeah.
What I will share, and I've been saying this for quite a number of years now, where my life really changed dramatically was when I started getting up every day. Like, I get up and I do variations of different practices and different things, and have, we could say, rituals of prayers and clearings and things like that. But the biggest thing that I would recommend that's so simple for anyone to do is every night and every morning, ask God, source, creator, whatever you want to call it, how can you be a vehicle for it to work through and assist others? And accept the blessings and abundance that comes with it. Because it's like a perpetual thing. It will give you what you need as you're allowing source to work through you. Now, doesn't mean you're going to be some prophet with a staff on top of a mountain like Moses and look at me, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean you're going to be like that, but I can tell you now that the things that I've experienced when I got out of the way, going, all right, and accepting that what I've been through has a reason that I still can't comprehend. There's been remote viewers and John Babanko, who's in Multidimensional, the movie, and James and a lot of other people that are saying, what's going on. And I do believe them, and it's not an ego thing either, but I know that there's a lot more on top of it that I've got no idea, that there is a bigger purpose that I don't think, not just with my experience here, but I think with all of us to an extent, that is hidden from us.
Yeah.
And I think that's for a purpose. But when you get out of the way of just thinking and just being and allowing those thoughts, ideas, epiphanies, feelings, which is ways that even source speaks, so it's not just our guides, it's a feeling, it's an energy, it's the field. We could say it's 0 point, Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, it's everything where within that, and you allow it to work through you. That's where true evolution, to me, starts to unfold in ways, because self-mastery, that is, you've got to get out of the way. But if this is telling you what you're doing is right, and this is going, I'm not sure, what's happening is the heart acts transdimensionally. It includes what the brain's thinking. We know this with heart math, that when you work with the heart, now you've got a bigger field. The brain, it doesn't mean you knock the brain to the side. The heart will take what the brain's got to say, but when you're working in the brain's pushing the heart down.
Yeah.
And it's just like I've said so many times that there's situations where what stops people from evolving is fear of the unknown and fear of security. But if this is telling you to jump over that hurdle, what's waiting for you on the other side is more amazing than what you can fathom, but you've got to jump.
Yeah. It's that
You got to have
courage
that
factor.
moment. It is, and it's hard. No one's immune to it. If anyone's saying I've never been nervous, this, that, and the other, fearful, worried about my security, this, that, and the other, I'll show you there's somebody that's full of crap.
Yeah.
So it's all of us, but it keeps things exciting. But that's just a little thing I thought I would share, because that's really where things change when we go, all right, God, work through me. What can I do as a vehicle for you to work through and assist others? And that's just where overnight my life has changed, and it continues every day.
Yeah. And that's what's led you to the path that you're on. And I think too, like, similarly, like you could say, how may I best serve? How may I best serve? Like, you know, if you're stuck and that sort of stuff. But look at where you are now. And I know, I can feel that, you know, you're guided, and you know what you have to do. And even though sometimes it's scary as shit because you don't know what's on the other side, you just go for it. I mean, like even with the sanctuary, like you would have had to take a massive leap to just take all that on. Like
People have got no idea. It was like being in I don't gamble. You know how they got red and black?
Yeah.
It's just putting everything I got on red.
Yeah.
From government permits, councils, like, I mean, the layers of stuff that were thrown at me, and I passed it all.
Yeah.
Should have taken 3 months, took 3 years.
Yeah.
But I say, in burdens, there's blessings.
Absolutely.
And there was huge blessings in this, that people could blame this or that or the other why I'm not open. I'm having experiences daily as well. You know, I've got that going on. I mow 6.5 acres with probably the smallest ride on, but I meditate the whole time. I love it. I'm gardening. I'm doing so many different things that, like, everything here, even the websites, the admin, everything. People think I've got a team. It's just me. Me and God. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe one day that will change, and probably will down the track, because I'm looking at expanding down the track. This is probably like the first thing of its level in Australia, from what I'm told.
Yeah.
But everything's done legally. There's no way that anyone can shut me down.
Yeah.
You know, most people have tried doing what I'm doing here now. They've been shut down as soon as people have found out about it. Like, legally, they've been, you know, you haven't got permits for this, you haven't got that. And I think, to an extent, yeah, it's a bit of a hassle, but hey, you want people to be safe. You want to go with the protocols. I don't mind paying my taxes. I don't mind doing everything above board. It just took longer than what I thought.
Yeah.
But to actually do something at this caliber by myself, it's taken everything that I've got. And that's because I had visions of this nearly 15 years ago, of this place when it started out, but also Australia needs it. And it's not just about Australia. I've actually got more people interested in Japan and America than I do here.
Yeah. Now, anyway.
right now. But it is something that I was guided here, and I knew where it was going. James Gilliland knew where it was going years ago as well. And I just had to go through the motions. And I think the bigger caliber things that you do, the bigger transformation you go through, so long as you stick with it and you stick with that strength, you find what you're made out of in ways that you couldn't find any other way. And that goes with, you know, relationships and breakups, or bad business deals, or health issues. Every aspect of our life, there can be great transformation in it if we're willing to see the cup half full rather than half empty. And then we take that and we use that as the fruit, and you eat that fruit and you grow from it.
Yeah. Speaking my language, Pete, it's so true. It is, because we're all faced with shit, and we're all faced with testing times, and it really is our choice and up to us how we let that grow us or let it shrink us. And sure, you might shrink a little bit for a time, but then you gotta push past it, and the courage, and just to go and see the lesson. I mean, that is where the gold is. That is where the magic is. And then you're you're ascending, you're evolving, and that's the name of the game, isn't it?
It is, and look, it can be frustrating because it's one of those things where you would have heard the saying, you go 10 steps forward, 3 steps back.
Yeah.
And we could use the analogy of pumping weights. When you pump weights, you're actually breaking the muscle down.
Yeah.
But when it rebuilds back up and it heals, it's, puffed up again, it's, strong again, all that, but it had to break down in order to get to that place. It doesn't mean whether it's, I'll go to extreme, but whether it's sexual abuse or child trafficking, all these different things, I'm not saying any means that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we can either use that if we've gone through experiences like that to transform, which I know can be extremely hard unless there's sort of like an aha moment within going, hey, I've got to take the reins here. I can't just be a victim. I've got to be not just a survivor, but I've got to be in victory, which is why I called this place Jaya Sanctuary, which means victory. It means victory. And that victory I want to use for victory in life.
Yeah.
Jaya also means balance of masculine and feminine. And it also means self-mastery.
Oh, pillar of a word, Pete. You nailed it.
It is. And that's the energy I want to leave people with and to experience when they come here. Is how can you achieve victory in your life? Not out of ego, not look at me now, look at you. How can you use that victory in your life to not just have blessings for yourself, but share that blessings with others to help elevate them?
And that's what I love about everything you've put together there and just what you embody anyway. It's like, it's not about you. You're facilitating something for people to have their own experiences and to do their thing. Yeah. And you're followed your calling, your truth, your knowing to go there. You know that you're aligned with what you're called to do. But then that is creating ripple effects that spread further than you can ever imagine, because everyone that comes in gets to have their own experience and their own aha moments and break through what they need to break through. And then it keeps spreading. I mean, that's freaking awesome.
Well, that's the thing. And that's why I couldn't put it in the box what I'm doing here. I might say it, like even on the website, it's CE5, meditation, yoga, and self-mastery, but that's why I've trained in so many different disciplines that really it's more like hanging out. Yeah, I'm going to go through practical tips and tools and sort of a framework that it's basically like going, here's some tools for your spiritual toolbox. Use them, don't use them. But I know for sure that if you use your own spiritual toolbox, whether it's my tools or somebody else's, and you're actually practical with them, you're going to get to where you need to go. But you need your own tools to navigate the journey. Because it can be either extremely short-lived and you go back to a normal life and no, I'm poor me and I can't do jack.
Yeah.
Or you can go, I'm going to have fun with this experience, because part of the Elohim experience, if we want to term it that, is you're a creator being. We've done a creation from a light blueprint, created this. Now we've come in to experience it. And it's like the biggest test of all is you now creating in the creation that we created. You'd actually go down and actually experience it for yourself and see, can you pass the trials and tribulations and what you perceive as blocks and still come out on the other side better for it? Or are you going to get stuck in the matrix when you go inside it?
Yeah. It's so funny, isn't it? Because when you think about it, like, we created this to play the game that we're playing now. So we made sure, like you said before as well, that there's things that we don't know yet so that we can have the experience, because ultimately we already know all of it at that one point, but we're having that filtered down experience, aren't we?
We 100%. And that's this whole thing is convoluted. It is. I know that Dolores Cannon has that convoluted book series, and
the convoluted universe. Is that what it's
called?
called?
My brother told me about that years ago, and he goes, I read Operation Starseed, and he goes, you've got to read this series. And he's like, it's exactly what you're talking about. He said yours is like a very much condensed version. I went through those books like nothing. I'm like, I knew it all, like not I know it all, but I knew it was like, this is friggin' awesome. And I was like, this is totally convoluted. It's, you think you're going one way and something pops up over here, and that was how it was meant to be. There's these processes and gems in all experiences, but I don't think we can see it sometimes. And I think the main thing that I'm trying to do here is educate. And that's because even with the way that I teach people to interface or work with their spirit team, which is bait to work with your higher self. That's why I'm really stuck with it, because eventually that's where you get to. we're not educated on this.
No.
And if there's a place and places, now there are people educating like yourself. Don't get me wrong, there's all these people educating, but there needs to be like a process with this education. And there needs to be places and more things than just on the internet. We need to be able to meet and greet and share and have a physicality. There's no use being a keyboard warrior or a keyboard ascended master. Just like you get somebody in the monasteries and you chuck them on the street, they're going to lose their crap. It's about being in the monastery while you're out in the real world. It's about doing 30 years of meditation so you're meditative in everything you do when you leave that ashram or wherever you are. You know, that's it, you haven't done your work if you're in that and you can't come out to the real world and still be, you know, the master that you were in there as you come out. That's the test.
It is. That is the test. And I love that too, because we can, and so grateful and blessed for technology to be able to have awesome conversations like this and, you know, shift our frequency just in a chat. But having that in-person stuff as well is so key, and those experiences, like actual experiences that you can't, you know, money can't buy that. It's those moments, those shifts that you have internally. That's where the magic happens. And when we can do that, I keep saying the magic, but it is like magic because, you know, we're creator beings, and we get to play here and do that, don't we?
We do. And look, there has been huge leaps and bounds, like probably around 2010, the amount of people from truck drivers to police officers to whatever coming to me about their experiences. Not having anywhere to go unless you're in Melbourne, or we could say Brisbane or Sydney, you know, for close encounter groups or what have you. In some ways, it's got better having the internet because people have got ways to research and navigate. Though there's a lot of noise out there and people don't see the signal in a lot of it. A lot of it is crap, unfortunately. And that's not for me to say, but it's just, I think people find that process out themselves.
It's a test of discernment.
And it's like, no, that's my truth. No, there's truth, and that's it. Not your truth and their truth and the truth. It's the truth, and there's no two ways about it. So we need to sort of, you know, realize that in it. And that's where I'm still open to find the truth in my experiences. I know that I can tell you what I believe to a certain extent. I can tell you what I know as well. But there's still truth. And I think places like this, which I hope more do pop up, it also gives another place, which is great that, you know, back in the day, there was still places, close encounter, people could go and talk to other abductees and experiences and all this. But like you find out, most of the time, people that are poor little me, I'm an experiencer that's been abducted, leads to, oh, this is all about consciousness. So many people I've met, I would say nearly like upwards of 95+% that have been abducted, it's led to, you know, the light body, to consciousness, to, you know, meditation, to all these things that was the conduit for them to go into those other areas in the human experience. Now, sometimes those abductions and things, yes, have been from negative intelligences, but at the same time, unbeknownst to them, they may have also been having other encounters they're mixing up that were actually with angelics or ultra-terrestrials or ultra-dimensional beings that are of a positive nature or extraterrestrials. It's like the sleep paralysis effect. Sometimes it can be when you're coming back into your body. Sometimes it can be a negative entity come into the room. You're just woken up from a negative dream and now you're froze. That can be a demonic or archonic or reptilian energy. I'm just, you know, not going in depth here. And then also there are times I know for a fact that people wake up, they're frozen, they've got contact going on, and basically if they turned around and saw what was actually there, this part of their soul family, they would freak out and probably end up in a mental ward. So there's sometimes that they try to wean you in, just like sometimes you're given false dreams or third eye visions, because they've got to grab the information from a, we could say, a trans-dimensional state that your brain has got no friggin' reference for. And then as it comes in, it's got to be diluted down into a screen experience, so you can take symbolic information or what you can to let you know what you need to know in the human form that you are only going to get it this way, because if you got it that way, the brain is probably going to be catatonic. But though I do think if our brain was at 100%, we could understand that information, which I think is originally what happened. The other part of the brain is the reptilian brain that, from what I know, was introduced by reptilians as a way to hijack us in a certain way. But like I say, there are blessings in burdens, that if you can use that as fuel to, better yourself, that's where there is a positiveness in that as well, because it's where we get triggered.
Yeah.
You last read all the lower vibratorial states, it's getting triggered, it's getting fed, and it's going out transdimensionally to this lower grid and to feed these energies.
Well, the triggers are like the medicine, aren't they? They're there to show us what we need to look at, and even the things that shit you the most will usually grow you the most. But they're there, and if they keep there and you're not looking, they're going to keep being there until you go, all right, I've got to do something with this. Don't you reckon?
Yeah. Oh no, totally, because that's where it's like, well, you're getting triggered. Why are you triggered? Was it because you were trying to control a situation, where you were attached to a situation? And that's the thing, is that it is a hard thing, and I get it asked a lot, with parents going, what's happened to my, hardcore situations with their children that are passed, or somebody's parent might have passed, or a loved one, or does my dog come with me to the new earth, and all these different things, which is beyond all that. And it's a very touchy topic, but the fact is that nothing lasts forever. No relationship's going to last forever. Why? Because even if you were together for 50 years, one of you passed, well, you've separated.
Yeah.
And in some cases, the other person goes shortly after. Our troubles, they come, they go. Nothing is permanent. And I think, especially with love, it's something that we sit in that space and we don't ever want it to end. And then it ends, and then it's like, what now? You can be heartbroken, this, that, and the other. A great business, you can be working at a great business and you don't want that to end. Well, the business could go bust, or, the owners sell up, and then, somebody absorbs that and it goes into another company. I'm using this in a million ways that you could apply this.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's where loving detachment really comes in. And James has spoken about this for how long I've been alive. Which is key with self-mastery, is loving, but detaching from your expectation of others, yourself, and in that taking what's, in your environment for granted, whether it's relationships, your business, or your abundance, what have you. Which is why I think gratitude and seeing when these pivots or falls happen in our trajectory, as you could say, like the stock market or like crypto, it's just a matter of time before it flings up, if it's viable. If it's viable. That means you're going to kick life's ass, or you're going to let it kick yours.
Yeah. 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 And that's the thing too, like you talking about detachment and attachment, because it's the attachment to the thing that is what we're really mourning when we lose things, isn't it? It's that. So if you can know that everything is in this realm, like it's finite, like ultimately we're infinite, but in where we're playing here, it's not that way. So it's kind of being able to come with that balance within yourself and knowing that. And that's not taking away, of course, from the shitty times and the tough times and all that sort of stuff. But, like you said, nothing is forever except what is. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's where I say to people, it doesn't mean that you don't do nothing or you do a crap job either with what you're doing.
Yeah, no.
It's seeing what fruit, are you learning patience in this? Are you learning, new tools or ways that you can go about things in whatever it is that you're enduring at that time? Like there's always fruit, as I say, there's always fruit in it. It's just, some people go, oh, it's not worth doing anything then,
Yeah.
It's like, sit there and they just go about their day. But I think that's the thing, is just being the best version of ourselves and sharing that with the world. And again, it doesn't mean everything's going to be blissful 24/7, but if you follow that bliss, those achievements will be blissful, because that's sort of what I could say is a byproduct from this, is that when you have that energy and you achieve certain things, that wears off on the ones around you. And then what it is now another cycle. What do I do next? That's why it's being okay that things are going to take time. Because as soon as you get to that destination, there's 100 more destinations behind it that you're not seeing yet. And then you get there and you go, well, what now?
Yeah.
So going with the flow and being cool that's just the way it is key with it. But it is finding the tools to best suit you with that and constantly learn and grow and find more tools so you can keep evolving in that way. Because if you don't have the tools for it, and again, we're not educated on this in a mainstream way, well then that's why most people can get stuck in the 9 to 5 or not see that there's bigger things happening behind the scenes than what they could even possibly understand unless open to it.
Yeah.
So just like the world's been going through some stuff, there's, things on certain levels that people have no idea about. And a lot of people have woken up, and because of that, there's been a catch-22, and we're seeing a lot of light shine from this world at this time as things are revealed.
Yeah, the light shining on what was always there. And like you said, but the world, but also yourself too, and the lessons and the wisdom. And I was thinking while you were saying that, I was like, all these lessons, I think far out Pete would have been really learning the lessons of patience with your sanctuary taking 3 years, not 3 months. Like, like I know for me, like if I know what I want to be doing, if it's frustrating as hell, but then you allow it, you go with the flow, and you just allow it to be what it is. It's just, it's special then. And then, the next thing, like you said, okay, we've done this now, what's next?
And I've got all that planned out. So I knew that God had me where God wanted me. And it can get frustrating at times. So no one's immune to this, but in that process, what can happen is there's aha moments that no matter what you're in right now, anyone watching this, you can be going through crap. There might be blockages on things happening, things not passing, what we call hiccups happen. But if you really sit back and observe, you'll actually see that there are aha moments within that when you get to that final destination or that final thing, you go, if this didn't happen, that didn't happen, and that didn't happen, this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And 100 other things that have happened that nobody knows about that's happened in order of this process. I go, I knew that's how God worked the whole time. So I didn't have an issue with it. But yeah, the patience was definitely something that I've learned more about than ever in that.
Yeah.
But also, I guess it builds that faith of, if you really believe, just like Yeshua says, as an example, it's not to get biblical or anything here, Jesus, but people have results because they have faith. Even with myself, I've had people walk again at Skywatch events. They don't need a cane or a walking frame again. I've had people get their hearing back, eyesight. I don't take any credit for that. The same happens at James's. But I think sometimes it's their faith in hearing about these things that happen at these things is actually what's caused it. That's why I take no credit for it. It's between them and God.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But when you have that faith, amazing things happen. And the bigger the goal, the bigger transformation, which means the bigger the shit you've got to go through to get to the other side.
Yeah.
So if you want to do great things, you've got to be ready for that whole tower to come crumbling down. But when you rebuild that tower, it's a frigging castle. That's sort of the analogy I could use for it.
Yeah, I love that. It is a freaking castle, but it's gonna be a whole lot of rubble first, but it's okay.
Even here, it's worked out really weird because I've got no neighbours. It's all government land. There's 2 gold mines down the back on the other side. So, and there's even gold here. So what I'm saying is not going, I've got gold.
Yeah.
These great energy spots like at James's and Beechworth, which is really haunted in Victoria and a lot of these places, what you'll find is that there is gold, quartz and running water streams, and sometimes limestone and other deposits. But it's got all of that. It's got, the gold, it's got the quartz, it's got the running water, and the energy is just prime. So it was a lot of, people don't understand the amount that I've worked with the original spirits here, the nature spirits, and also the energy of the land to get the energy where it probably needed to be to open.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was every day.
Yeah.
And that's probably the stuff to some that are going to be like, well, this is a bit full on, but there's energy and clearings. And then I've got my own clearings that I'm doing. And then I've got stuff where there are lost beings and intelligences that come here that need assistance as well. Sometimes, whether they've died from a car accident or drugs or, things like that. So there's a lot of energy that needed to be prepared for the sanctuary. And that's why I look back as well going, it was this boot camp. I
Yeah.
thought I'd been through boot camp, I'm going through boot camp again. Yeah, you got to keep going through boot camp. You
Yeah.
just cycles of it.
Yeah. But that, like, I mean, you know, as you're saying that, it's like, of course it's going to take 3 years. There's so much energy, and the energetic space that you will be holding needs to be clear for the people coming in. So there is a lot of work that I can imagine that you have done behind the scenes, just working with it. But like, you know, just going through the trenches and doing what you need to do. And there is still that innate knowing within that that is what you're supposed to be doing. And that's that faith thing. That's that knowing, isn't it?
Definitely. And that's just like whether you would go to a monastery or ashram or what have you. You are doing your practices, but you still got to help out, whether it's mopping, cleaning toilets, showers,
Mm-hmm.
providing and helping with the service. I do all that here myself.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of people that have been helping out here and there, of course, but you know, like I said, people probably think I'm here lapping it up, and I actually find I'm trying to think of the word, but I'm actually in a good place when I'm mowing lawns or I'm cleaning,
Yeah.
vacuuming or hosing, or you know, it's self-mastery in that. You could almost say, like Karate Kid, you know, wax on or wax off. There's a purpose why you're showing that to that child, not just for the moves, but like if you were to do self-defense, you have to be in a very clear and calm state of mind when crap hits the fan. And so just like your self-mastery practices and just in your day-to-day life, you've got to carry that with you, whether it's in your chores or whether it's in your business or whether it's in your personal life or whatever it is, you've got to carry that with you and have that balance and that clarity. So, you know, all of it, it's got a reason. I just see it as boot camp. That's all you got to do.
What's the saying? You want before you're enlightened, you do the dishes, and then after you're enlightened, you do the dishes. Something like that.
Yeah, no, that is it. Yeah, that's another one that I do use. You know, before you're enlightened, you're going to get up, have a shower, and brush your teeth. Unless you go into a rainbow light body,
Yeah.
you'll still, you know, have to keep getting up, brushing your teeth, and having a shower. So it very much is. You know, some people do think, unfortunately, that just because you can attain certain things, that all of a sudden, you don't have to do anything anymore. And the real masters end up being in service to others in different ways, that when they achieve a form of ascension or that enlightenment in a certain way. So it doesn't stop. It just transmutes just like we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Pete, I could talk to you all day long. This has just gone way too fast, but I know you got to do stuff. You've got to eat and sleep and clean and mow the lawn and all that sort of stuff. So just to wrap things up, is there anything else on your heart that you'd like to share? And then can you let us all know how people can best find you as well?
Yeah, all I can say is I just hope this has been fruitful for people, and just all we can do is just be the best version of ourselves. Don't be hard on yourself. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, but it's all about the fruit from everything, whether it's what I'm saying or what you're experiencing in real time. So I just would like people to take that from this conversation and to do their own investigation, their own due diligence, and have their own discernment. With that said, if people are interested, there's petermaxwellslattery.com or Jaya Sanctuary, which is Jaya sanctuary.com. I've also got ECETI Australia.org and .com as well, so it doesn't matter which way you put that in. Pretty much they're all in some ways the same websites, but there's a lot of free meditations, online courses. There are ones that you can pay for as well, and things of that nature, and the books are up. And my first documentary, which is out 2020, or 2021, that's available for free now as well. You can watch that on YouTube or Tubi, what have you, but there's movies and everything there that people can go to if they're interested to find out more. At the very least, I just hope this has been somewhat entertaining, but also fruitful for them. So thank you for having me on.
Oh, look, thank you, Pete. It's just been freaking phenomenal. And I also want to thank you at home for tuning in to this epic chinwag. I hope you have got so much out of it. It has been so much fun. Pete, I hope you've had so much fun as well. So thank you at home for being there. Like usual, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, give it a like. If you're listening where you listen to podcasts, give it a review, all that sort of fun stuff. Leave a comment too. Pete can check out the comments. I can check out the comments. So always love hearing from you. But again, Pete, I just want to say thank you so much for your time today and sharing your wisdom with us and everything that you're doing. It's just been awesome.
No, thank you for what you're doing too, because it's educating the masses, and that's what we need to do. Each of us just doing our thing. So thank you for contributing as well and doing what you're doing, and to others listening as well. You know, I'm sure a lot of you are doing that as well. And if not, give it a go and, you know, follow your heart.
Yeah, love that, Pete. Thank you so much.